Welcome and thank you for waiting. All participants will remain in a listen-only mode for the duration of today's webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the session over to your host from the U.S. Census Bureau, Crystal. Crystal, you could begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, My Community Explorer, Using Data to Understand Local Impact. I'm Crystal Jimerson, a training specialist here at the U.S. Census Bureau. I want to thank you for joining us today for the From Fundamentals to Functionality, Mastering Census Bureau Data webinar series. These webinars are a great opportunity for you to learn from our experts about how to access the Census Bureau data, tools, and resources. If you wish to follow along, take a moment now to open an additional browser. You can register for any of the webinars by visiting census.gov/academy. Before I introduce today's speaker, let's go over a few important housekeeping rules. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. For your convenience, it will be uploaded to our Census Academy site with all supplemental materials relating to the webinar within 30 business days. We welcome written questions during the webinar. If you would like to ask a question, find and click on the Slido icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Be sure you have the Q&A tab selected. There will be a box at the bottom to type your question. After you submit your question, you may need to click on the My Questions tab to see your response, and then click on View Replies to see the response. As a reminder, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your questions. The chat panel will be one-way communication, meaning we will send you a few notes and links in the chat panel. However, for questions that you'd like to send to us, please use the Slido Q&A panel. My colleagues will be monitoring the Q&A panel, and as time allows, we will answer your questions directly, or we will share your question with the presenter to respond to during the webinar. If we do not get to all of the questions with the response during the webinar, we will post the questions and responses with the webinar materials on the census.gov/academy site. As you know, we are in a virtual environment, and sometimes technical difficulties might occur. If you are having issues, try a different browser, such as Firefox, or consider logging out and coming back into the session. If you are having audio issues, try selecting the computer audio or calling into the webinar via phone. Now I would like to introduce our speaker, Meredith Maxwell. Thanks again for being here today. Meredith, you may begin.
All right, Census Academy, thank you for having me. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be, whatever part of the country you're in. Thanks for joining me for this CA webinar series, My Community Explorer, Using Data to Understand Local Impact. As aforementioned, I'm Meredith Maxwell. I'll be your webinar trainer for today. I am a data dissemination specialist. I've been with the Bureau on and off in various capacities for a while. I've done a couple of decennial censuses, and I currently cover, as a data dissemination specialist, a few counties in Southern California, as well as the entire state of Nevada. All right, so what we're going to cover today. So our objective, we're going to have an overview of census programs and surveys as it pertains to MCE. And MCE is short for My Community Explorer. We're also going to go over a few scenarios to navigate practical ways to use MCE, which is an interactive map-based tool that highlights selected demographic, business, and resilience information to inform data-based solutions. So, My Community Explorer, as aforementioned, it is an interactive map-based tool that combines real-time disaster tracking information, such as hurricane paths, storms, wildfires, with Census Bureau data on affected areas to help understand the potential impact of said disasters to the community, businesses, and the economy. So there are 4 Census Bureau data layers or sources in MCE. Two of those data layers are business related and the other two are socioeconomic layers. And I'm just going to cover these briefly, just so you have a high level understanding of, again, what's covered when we actually get to the demonstration, which highlights the data tool. The first layer that we're going to talk about is from NES, or non-employer statistics. So if you're following along here, I'm just going to go from left to right. Now, this layer contains the latest release of data from the U.S. Census Bureau's non-employer statistics program, which includes data on self-employed persons, and most specifically at the two-digit North American Industry Classification System, otherwise known as NAICS codes. Now, specifically, it shows data on the number of establishments and revenue for select two-digit NAICS sector and for NAICS 00. So the 00 is basically a placeholder or title to denote an aggregate all sectors table. This occurs when multiple distinct industry sectors are displayed, grouped, or compiled within the exact same data set or report. This is shown by county as well as state boundaries. The full NES data set, which is available at census.gov, is updated annually to contain the most recent NES data. All right, so that's the first of the business layers. The next one we're going to talk about is the county business patterns. So this layer, which we have the 2023 release of data from the U.S. Census Bureau's County Business Patterns, otherwise known as CBP program, which includes data on employer business, also by two-digit, but this goes all the way up to six-digit NAICS codes. It will provide you with data on the number of establishments, total employment, and total annual payroll for the two-digit NAICS sector codes. However, excluding NAICS codes 11 or 11 and 99. However, for NAICS 00, all sectors, it will include NAICS 11 and 99. And this is also shown by county and state boundaries. This program is also updated annually to contain the most current release CBP data. All right, so now we're going to talk about the last two layers here. Well, actually, before I do that, I just want to make sure, I know that's confusing about the 1199 and the 0, the NAICS codes. Let me just jump back real quick and highlight something. So again, the NAICS 00, it represents all sectors combined. This category aggregates data across the entire economy and includes every single industry. So that's why it's important. Whereas NAICS 11, this is going to include agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting, whereas NAICS 99 is an unclassified category. So these are specifically excluded when looking at individual two-digit sector data. They are only included in the NAICS, again, all sector, which is 00 total. So I just wanted to put that little caveat in there just to make sure you understand what's included versus excluded regarding NAICS codes. Now, one of the socioeconomic layers that we're going to talk about, which is very pertinent to my Community Explorer, is the ACS, otherwise known as the American Community Survey. This layer contains the 2018-22 release to 2022 5-year release data from the American Community Survey on select economic, social, and demographic population characteristics. Again, these are the 5-year estimates, and they're shown by state, county, as well as census tracts. For those of you who are new to the ACS, it's an ongoing sample survey that provides vital information on an annual basis about our nation and its people. It is an estimate. The survey samples about 295,000 addresses each month for an estimated 3.5 million households each year. Simple. And the last one we'll talk about is the CRE, otherwise known as the Community Resilience Estimates. So the CRE is very important. We're actually going to touch on that a little bit. CRE does have its own data tool. I'm not going to get into the data tool today, but I will show you where it's housed. The CRE estimates the capacity of individuals and households to absorb, endure, and recover from disasters. CRE uses small area estimation and combines ACS microdata with the population estimates program data, which in short allows the Census Bureau to cumulatively flag persons living with a social vulnerability risk factor. Social vulnerability is a key term as it pertains to the My Community Explorer data tool. Okay? So those are your 4 layers, and it'll make more sense when we get into the data tool. I just wanted to make sure you understood what they were and what they cover. Okay, so the next thing, I kind of touched on resilience a little bit. Well, what is it? It's basically the capacity of individuals and households within a community to absorb, endure, and recover from the external stresses of the impacts of a disaster. So in this diagram, we're going to focus here where you see social vulnerability, community resilience, and capacity. We're looking at how community resilience is shaped by 2 main factors, which is SV, which you hear me refer to as social vulnerability, and capacity. Social vulnerability refers to the challenges or risk factors that can make the impact of a disaster worse. Okay? These might be, for instance, demographic, socioeconomic, or health-related characteristics within a community. So things like limited income, age, disability, or language barriers. When these vulnerabilities stack up, they can make it harder for individuals and households to recover from a disaster. And then on the other side, we have capacity. So we're looking here, which represents the strengths or protective factors that support resilience. These can come from the community itself, such as strong economic resources, reliable infrastructure, access to services, and the presence of institutions that provide support. Environmental factors also play a role here. When you put these 2 pieces together, vulnerability and capacity, you get a better picture of how well a community can endure and bounce back from a disaster, hence the community resilience factor. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about social vulnerability and a little bit about resilience and the layers, we're going to focus the next few slides here on community resilience estimates, what they are and what they look like. So the CRE provides a simple metric to help gauge the social vulnerability of every neighborhood via census tracts in the United States to disasters such as a bridge collapse, a wildfire, flooding, hurricanes, and even a pandemic. This information is particularly important for local officials when responding to emergencies. The CRE defines 10 components to measure social vulnerability. So if you're following along, you can see these 10 components here on the left. And just to go through a few of the examples, they include poverty, employment, disability, and broadband internet access. And they use, CRE uses small area estimation techniques, SAE, which is the Census Bureau, in which the Census Bureau combines data from several sources, including the ACS or American Community Survey. Analysis is performed on the individual and household level, ACS, internal microdata, to determine the number of components of social vulnerability, or SV. It also includes PEP estimates, or the Population Estimates Program. We utilize age, sex, race, and ethnicity data from the Census Bureau's Population Estimates Program. And we also include the decennial census. We utilize population totals and characteristics from the decennial census Modified Age and Race Census, otherwise known as MARC file, and Privacy Protected Microdata file, otherwise known as PPMF. So that is the decennial census Modified Age and Race Census, otherwise known as MARC file, and the Privacy Protected Microdata file, otherwise known as PPMF. Just continuing on here, the CRE provides estimates of the total number of people living in a community by the number of components of social vulnerability. This includes estimates for the following groups. As you can see on the left, you can see the 10 components. We're still here. That comprise the social vulnerability metric. The number of people with 0 components of social vulnerability is low. 0 components here. 1 to 2 components of social vulnerability is considered medium. And then 3 or more components of social vulnerability is considered high. For today's exercises or scenarios, we will definitely focus on those communities with 3+ components. We're currently looking at a heat map of Los Angeles, California, okay? And we are situated on the 3+ components of social vulnerability. It's a visualization of the percentage of the population universe with 3 or more components of SV by census tract. So again, this is a heat map. So the darker shaded area has 31% or more of its population having 3+ components. It's important that you pay attention to these tags because when we go into the data tool, these legends will look familiar, right? So the MCE will definitely give you additional detail that CRE does not, but it will look relatively similar. The CRE also enables you to look at each tract and find exact details, such as tract here, 219901. So again, this is a label that you'll also see in MCE that will give you socioeconomic detail, business details about this particular census tract. You have your GeoID, you have your county, you have your census tract here. And then you have whatever layers are covered in this particular census tract. You have your 3+ components of social vulnerability here. You can see that this particular tract has 39.76, right? And it'll also give you the population when we get to MCE, okay? This for CRE is giving you a percentile ranking, okay? And it also gives you the significant difference versus the national rate or estimate. And you can tell that for this particular category, tract 2199 is higher than the national estimate. And it also gives you the total number of people affected in this tract at just over 1,800. All right, so very neat and tidy information you can get from these estimates. It's very easy to drill down to the geographies that you are looking for. So. All right, so there are several different products that have been developed that relate to social vulnerability. And these are the standard CRE here at the top. We have the CRE for Puerto Rico, and then we also have the CRE for heat. The standard CRE, which I've covered on the previous slide, again, it just provides an easily understood metric of social vulnerability. It provides estimates for impacts of disasters down to the census tract geographic level. The CRE for Puerto Rico expands to the standard CRE, which focused on the United States into Puerto Rico. Similarly, it uses restricted microdata from the Puerto Rico Community Survey and small area estimation methods. The estimates measure social vulnerability to disasters at the state, commonwealth, municipal, and census tract geographic level. So it's a little bit different. The experimental CRE for heat measures social vulnerability specifically in the context of extreme heat exposure. This estimate was developed in collaboration with Arizona State University's Knowledge Exchange for Resilience. The 2019 CRE for heat are produced using information on individuals and households from the 2019 American Community Survey, or ACS, and the Census Bureau's PEP program, Population Estimates Program. Now, quickly, the CRE for heat versus standard CRE, although the methodology is the same as the standard CRE files, there are some slight differences in risk indicators used to create the CRE for heat index. 3 of the 10 risk factors are somewhat modified from the standard CRE in order to account for vulnerability to heat exposure related to housing and transportation. Right? And again, of the 3, the Community Resilience Estimates Viewer and the Puerto Rico are actual viewers. The CRE for heat, it'll give you more tables and tallies. So it's set up a little bit differently, but nonetheless, they all capture CRE data sets. Okay, so now for the fun part, I'm going to, as promised, I will show you where the CRE is housed. We are going to move on into the My Community Explorer demo. What you're looking at here is a landing page for MCE. So bear with me as I get you on over there. And I think Crystal mentioned in the beginning, I'll try to slow down here for those of you who are actually following along. I'm using Google Chrome, but please feel free to use whatever web browser works best for you. All right, so I'm at census.gov, and I'm going to show you here before I jump back to the deck, because there's a few things I want to show you before we actually open up MCE, but I want to make sure that I show you where these are housed before I forget. All right, so when you're at census.gov, there are a couple ways to get there, but the quickest way is to navigate to topics. And then once you're there, just go ahead and go to emergency management and disasters. I'll hold here for a second just to make sure those of you who are following along can keep up with me. Okay, so again, we're at census.gov, navigate to topics, and then you want to go to emergency management / disasters. Once you're there in our emergency management hub, which is a pretty easy hub to access, you will see My Community Explorer, MCE, which we'll get to in a bit. But you'll also see in the far right, Community Resilience Estimates, the CRE. And all you have to do is just click on it and it'll populate it here. It'll swap it out. And then you just hit View More and it'll take you to the data tool. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that quickly. There's a few things I want to show you before we actually open up the My Community Explorer data tool. All right, so one of the things that are really cool about MCE, I'm a big fan of the data tool. It is a very easy tool to access quick data sets. So one of the first profiles, one of 4, as mentioned, there were 4 layers. So there's 4 profiles that correspond with those layers in My Community Explorer. What you're seeing here is an economic profile, and this is the economic profile of San Francisco County. Here you will see a heat map, which is interactive. You can actually drill down to census tracts. You can see these various colors. And this particular heat map is showing you income below poverty by census tract. And you'll also see the data source here. On this particular profile, you will also get data on income, health insurance. You'll get information on poverty levels, as well as the Gini index, which utilizes ACS data. A quick little tidbit about the Gini index of income inequality. The Gini coefficient, it incorporates the detailed shares data into a single statistic, which summarizes the dispersion of income across the entire distribution. So the Gini coefficient ranges from 0. And if you ever see something that's 0, as it pertains to the Gini coefficient, it's indicating perfect equality, where everyone receives an equal share. And this coefficient goes all the way up to 1, the opposite direction, which is perfect inequality, where only one recipient or group of recipients receives all the income. So this is the first profile, San Francisco economic profile. I'm going to jump to the next one. Keeping at the county level, we're now looking at a profile of New York. Okay? And this is a very robust social characteristics profile. Okay? You can see the trend continues with an interactive heat map where you can drill down to data pertaining to broadband internet subscriptions. And again, this is by census tract. And I'll show you all this when we open up the data tool, how easy it is. The functionality is very simple, easy, user-friendly. You're also, I mentioned the broadband internet subscriptions. You're going to get households with 1+ disability, broadband access households with seniors, vehicle access, and language spoken at home. So these are all cutouts that I put here just to make sure that all the social characteristics are easily readable for this particular slide. But again, when we get to the data tool, I'll show you how to sort through all that. Okay, Another socioeconomic profile here, we're looking at Houston County, and this is a race and ethnicity profile. And this is going to provide you valuable data regarding race and Hispanic origin. One of the major race categories here you can see is white alone. By far and away is the predominant race, okay? And then you can see Black or African American alone is second, okay? And then you can see Hispanic or Latino comes in third for this particular economic or ethnicity profile, right? And here on the left, again, this is another heat map, and you can see all the major race categories here, color-coded for this particular heat map. Okay? So you can see here is brown, which corresponds to the legend here for white alone, not Hispanic or Latino. Okay, and the last or the second business profile that I'm going to show you, this is for Denver County. You can see here that it's giving you average payroll per employee. You can see it's nearly 90,000. You can see that there were just over 27,000 total employer establishments as of 2023, with nearly 500,000 employees, okay? There were nearly 83,000 total non-employer establishments in 2023. And you can see the total revenue. The average revenue per non-employer establishment was nearly $66,000. So I'm going to show you, we're going to go to the tool now, and I will show you how to access these profiles for our particular scenario so it all makes sense. Okay, so what is our first scenario for the day? So federal, state, and local transportation departments need to ensure that transportation needs of all Americans are being met. This not only includes higher income residents that have access to their own personal vehicles, but also lower income, elderly, disabled, or other residents who rely on public transportation. Using this tool, transportation agencies can identify the census tracts in their area that have higher percentage of residents with limited access to transportation as compared to state and national averages, including those who rely on public transportation available in their area, right? So I'm going to navigate to MCE, and we're going to kind of work our way through this first scenario, which is pretty simple. All right. So getting back here. All right. So we're back in the Emergency Management Hub. Okay. And my Community Explorer is right there. I actually already have it up, but I'll show you what it looks like when you select View More, load the page. Okay. So whenever you load my Community Explorer, it can take a few seconds to load, depending on the time of day and how many people are on it. It can work a tad bit slower, but for the most part, if you're patient with it, it should load correctly. When it does load, you're going to see what's newly been added. We're currently on version 4.6, and these are all the updates. Okay. If this is your first time utilizing my Community Explorer, you have an opportunity to take a tour. Or if you're in the wrong version and you want to go to the Puerto Rico version, you can get there from here as well. I'm going to hit skip tour, or you can just X out of it. Okay. And now we are on the landing page for my Community Explorer. I'm going to take you through this landing page first before we work through the first scenario, just so you're familiar with everything that we're looking at. All right, so I'm going to start at the top. If you wanted to share this page, this is your opportunity here. If you've gone through the data tool and you've noticed some issues or you have some concerns or questions, you can select feedback here. Here's another option to get to the Puerto Rico version of MCE. The About page is going to give you information on all the updates, past and present. And you can scroll down and see all the updates that have been there. All right. The table, which is a very unique feature. Let's say you're not interested in the heat map, you're not interested in utilizing this portion of the data tool, you want to get straight to the data, you can use this table function. It kind of functions like Excel. Okay, you can isolate your variables. You can see ACS. You can, if you're interested in just the CRE by counties, CRE by tracts, county business pattern data, so forth and so on, NES, you can isolate those variables and get straight to the data. It's quite a bit of variables if you want to use the filter function here, or hide columns. Okay, you can see all the variables are here. It's a small slider, so you can see the amount of data that's here. And the table will correspond to what you select or deselect, right? So just another neat way to use the tool. It's quick and efficient. It has GeoIDs. I will tell you though, the print option is not here. If that's something that you wanted to do, you can utilize that via data.census.gov, which also has community resilient estimate functionality. Okay, but again, this is a really neat way to quickly source the data you're looking for. All right, I'm going to X out of here. All right, and the last box here in the ribbon is data source. This is just going to give you information about what's provided in MCE, where the data is sourced from. It's going to, these are all hyperlinks. So when you select them, it'll take you to the home page where you can facilitate additional information about what's going on or what information is provided via this particular data tool. And there's also a help button. Okay, now we're just looking here at the main page. I tell people when they first get to this data tool, it's easier to break this up into thirds. On the left side here, you have your responsive legend. Right here, dead center, you have your interactive heat map. You can grab, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. Okay, and on the right, you have your community context. And just below the ribbon here, you have your geography selectors where you can select your state and county. Okay? So the default for this particular data tool is at the national level. And you can see here on the right for community context, it's giving you the number of households. You can see there's 125.7 million households in the nation, population 331 million. It's also giving you the percent social vulnerability. Okay. You can see that's at 20.63%. Household characteristics below poverty, you can see nearly 16 million or 12.4% of the population. You can see those with 1+ disability, 32.5 million or nearly 26% of the population. And then you can see those without a vehicle, nearly almost 11 million, 10.5 million. And then you can see those with broadband, nearly 88.3% of the population, or 111 million. And this community context will adjust as you select your geographic areas. Okay. Now, going back here to the left, the responsive legend, you have your two sliders here. This is going to show you your predominant categories. So you can see here, based on the default, you have your red, you have your yellow, you have your green, and then you have your gray, which is no prevalence. And you can see quickly on the map the areas that are grayed out, okay, that have no statistical prevalence as it pertains to social vulnerability. Okay. And then I'm going to grab the smaller slider here, and this is where you're going to see all your icons. You can see your wind classified by wind, and I will tell you, the larger the icon, the larger the incident. Okay. So classified by wind speed, you can see category 5 is the larger decal there. Excuse me, sorry about that. Okay, there we go. All right, and you can see we go from category 1 all the way up to category 5. You get tropical storm information. Scrolling down, you can see watches and warnings, also color coded, hurricane force details, U.S. current wildfires, okay? And it's the same, the larger the icon, the larger the incident. You can see this large icon here, 300,000 or more. And it's really easy to look at the map and see where your particular incident might be landing. So that being said, let me scroll in, let me zoom in and just kind of see what we can see as far as incidents are concerned. Oops, let me zoom out a little bit. Sorry, X out of there. So all you have to do is select an icon and it'll give you information on that particular incident. Okay. So you can see here we have the Stony incident, type wildfire, area acres burned, 79%, contained, not available. And this is relatively, it's about 10 days old, okay? 6/14/2026, okay? Now, one key thing to note, because these are ACS layers and you get additional socioeconomic layers, when you select on one of these icons, you might have additional pages. So you can see this particular incident has 3 pages. So you can select here, and it's going to give you whatever additional details are available. Now, keep in mind, some might have 0 pages, some might have 5, 6, 7 pages. It depends on the population threshold as well. So you might have CRE, you might have ACS layers. Again, it just depends on the surrounding areas of the geography, right? So this one, we have a CRE layer. It's highlighting the incident area back here. You can see it. It's letting us know that for this particular county, there's 1 million people. We're looking at 23.35% of the residents have 3+ components of social vulnerability. It's also giving you those 1 to 2. And we don't want to ignore that because that's actually quite a big number. Again, if you remember, 1 to 2 components is medium. So it's definitely nothing to ignore, but you can also see combined, that's over 700,000 people who are potentially affected by this incident. Okay? And then you can see all the other details as it pertains to CRE, what it's providing you. And I won't go into this here because I want to show you this when we actually get into the scenario. But you can see it gives you the difference from the national estimate, whether it's higher, lower, or not statistically different. Okay? And then on the 3rd page, you can see your ACS 5-year data here. And this is going to get you at the county level, right? And it's going to give you additional socioeconomic contents. You can see income in the past 12 months below poverty level, 19.5%, 85.3% of households have a broadband subscription, 488,000 people over 25, high school graduate, blah, blah, blah. So quite a bit of information. And you can see the Gini index here. It's below 50%, so it's closer to 0. Okay. And it gives you, again, just a little bit of information on what that Gini coefficient range means here. So, all right. And it's really easy to get out of. You just X out of it and it'll close that window. However, after selecting this area, if you notice, your community context is adjusted. Right? So now we're looking at Fresno County, California, okay? And you can see that population number is adjusted, household number, and all the social CRE characteristics have also adjusted. Right? So again, very easy map to utilize. One thing that I do want to point out is this icon here, where new incidents that have happened in the past 24 hours. You can see what these bubbles look like here. I'll select this one here. Top. The Missouri incident discovered 6/23, so that was yesterday. This one again has 3 pages, and it's giving you. It's going to probably give you CRE and ACS as well. So, all right. And I will say this now: these heat layers or these emergency response layers supposed to be near real time. So they're supposed to adjust about every 15 minutes or so. So that's what they tell me. Okay. So, okay. So that's the heat map in a nutshell. On the right, sorry, let me let that load. Give me a second. Like I said, it can take a second. Okay. All right. So here you have your legend, which will correspond to whichever layer you have going. And here you have your actual layers. So when the eye is visible, that's the layer that's actually showing. And let me zoom in a little bit just so you can see how these layers will adjust. All right. So you can see all the various layers you have here. Right now, we have the emergency preparedness layer on. You can see your cartography layer is also on as well. So if I were to take off the emergency preparedness layers, you can see all the fires and incidents go away. Okay. Something we have below poverty. I can show you what that looks like. You can see your map begins to change. And you can only have a couple of these layers on at a time. Unfortunately, you can't utilize them all at the same time. So just depending on the layers, they may or may not function together. Okay. So I am going to go back to, I'm going to hide the poverty level and make sure my emergency preparedness is on, cartography is on, good to go. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can go ahead. Oh, one thing I want to show you at the bottom are your 4 profiles. Okay. Now, if you were to select one, let me see here. You notice there's no information here. And the reason why is because these are only going to give you detail at the county level. So you have to make sure that step 1 and step 2 are completed before these 4 profiles are going to show you any information. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the interactive map. And now we're going to start with this profile. So remember, we're trying to build out the profile for this transportation department. They're looking for data on households below poverty, seniors 65 plus living alone, and households without a vehicle. And this is for Los Angeles County. So first step, we're going to go ahead and select the state. Then we'll generate a profile. You can either type in the county or you can scroll down. I'll go ahead and start typing in Los Angeles, and you can see it populates. Map zoom in. All right. Now we should have information on these various profiles. So we'll go ahead and look at the economic profile, and you can see now our information is populated. Here's the aforementioned heat map, income below poverty level by census tract. Okay, here's your legend. And just like the heat map on the interactive page, you can zoom in, you can select the census tract, and it's going to give you details on that particular tract. And it's also going to give you additional pages of information. Okay. All right. So we're looking for income, households income below poverty. You can see here 464,528 households, or 13.8% of households. Okay. And again, that source ACS 2018 to 2022. All right, so we'll go over to social characteristics, also for Los Angeles County. And that's going to give us additional socioeconomic information. Now we're going to get that household information, 65 living alone, as well as households without a vehicle. So we can see here 301,059 households without a vehicle. And then we have 291,000, just over 291,000 households without a vehicle. Or did I say without a vehicle here? I meant 65 plus living alone, if I said that incorrectly. All right. So really simple. This is how we build out that quick profile for the transportation department. I'll show you that summary. All right. So from the community context or economic profile, LA County below poverty was 464,000, or 13.8%. And then we went to the social characteristics, and we saw households without a vehicle were just over 291,000, or 8.7% of households. And then we also within social characteristics, we saw households with 65 plus living alone was 301,059, or 9% of households. So that's our first scenario. I wanted to keep it simple. I just wanted to show you how you can use those profiles to facilitate the data that you need. All right, moving on to our second and last scenario for the day. We're going to identify the top 3 census tracts with the highest rate of individuals having 3+ components of social vulnerability in Butte County. Which among these census tracts has the highest percentage of population with a disability? Which among these census tracts has the highest percentage of population living below poverty level? All right. So this one will be a little more tricky, a little bit more trickier, but still not hard. Okay. So we're going to go back to our interactive map. Okay. Now, there are a couple ways you can do this. You can refresh the page, but I don't recommend that because it's going to take you all the way back through, skip a tour, all that stuff. Just go here, adjust your county. And this particular example is going to be for Butte County. I chose a smaller county just so we don't get inundated with all the layers. All right. Okay. And you can see here our community context is adjusted. You can see, for those of you familiar with California, you can see our 58 county data here, households, population, so forth and so on. All right. You can see dead center is Butte County. I'm actually going to select it So it highlights the county, and you can see it gives us some information here on the county. But we're interested a little bit on a different geography. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more. So I'm going to X out, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. You can do it with your fingers, or you can do the plus or minus to find your locales. Okay. Now, because I've done this ahead of time, I know where these areas are. So again, there are 3 counties that we're interested in. And if you remember, they are color-coded according to the legend. So it might not be an exact match, but it's close. So I can see that one of the counties that I'm interested in is here near Paradise. All right. And this is Census Tract 21 in Butte County. And you can see Butte County, Census Tract 21 has nearly 1,400 people. But you can see the residents, the percent of residents with 3+ components of social vulnerability is nearly 40%. And this is a smaller census tract of 356 people, okay? And you can see it's pretty close with those with 1 to 2 components of social vulnerability. Now I just want to show you this, the difference from the national estimate, why this might be significant. Scrolling through, you can see all the various characteristics here. But you can see for this particular tract, the median age of the population, 56.3, which is higher than the national estimate, which corresponds with the next bracket of population 65 years and over, nearly 33%, which is higher. And you also have civilian non-institutionalized population with a disability. So you can see your 3 characteristics easily here, 3+ characteristics easily here in Census Tract 21. And you can see here, there are 4 pages here. In the interest of time, I'm just going to show you what these layers are, but I'm not going to go through them in great detail. So the first one is the CRE. Then we have the ACS for the county by Census Tract 2021. I'm sorry, 2021 for Census Tract 21. We have the county level detail for CRE, and then we have the county level detail for ACS. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to scroll down, still staying within the county, and I see an additional red area here. You can see how easy this is. Palermo, and this is Census Tract 32. Okay. And you can see here, this is a much larger county, 4,000, just over 4,000 people. Now you can see 51.43% of the residents here have 3+ components of social vulnerability. And you can see an additional 1,381 have 1 to 2. Okay. And you have the same 4 pages here of information. Okay. Now quickly, this is where it gets a little tricky. The last county is actually not, the last census tract, excuse me, is not showing red. And the predominant reason why is because whatever the main category is of social vulnerability, that's the color that's going to show. So if it's 1 to 2, whatever color on your legend is for 1 to 2, that's what's going to show. But that doesn't mean there isn't 3+ components, right? It's just the significance as compared to the other category. Right? So that 3rd census tract is actually here in Enterprise Rancheria. And that's Census Tract 24.02. And I will show you why. So if you look here, nearly 40% of the residents have 3+ components of social vulnerability. But the reason why it's not showing red is because it's coming into a close second with those residents with 1 to 2 at 42.30. So, and you can see statistically the numbers, the population thresholds are very close, okay? So we found our 3 census tracts, right? Pretty easy if you're looking at the colors, right? So these are our census tracts in a nutshell: 32, 24.02, and Census Tract 21. So the top 3 census tracts, as aforementioned, 32, 24.02, and Census Tract 21. Which census tract had the highest percentage with the disability? That'll be Census Tract 21 at 33.5. Here. Which census tract had the highest percentage of population with income below poverty level? That'll be Census Tract 32. And then Census Tract 24.02 was close at 26.6. So had the highest percentage of population with income below poverty level. Sorry, Census Tract 24.02. There you go. Sorry, hopefully it didn't confuse you there. So that's scenario 2. I know I'm running low on time, so this is the data dissemination and training branch to which I belong. This is our team. We offer excellent data gems. They're typically 5 to 10 minute how-to videos on our various data tools. We also have the much longer webinars, which we're conducting today, which are recorded, which you can review at your own leisure. They're very good. As a data dissemination specialist, I utilize these myself. So I encourage you on your own time to go through and utilize these courses and data gems. All right. And this is our contact information here. This is my contact information, which will be available to you. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Monica for any potential questions.
Thank you so much, Meredith, for that great presentation. And yes, I do see a few questions. So the first question that we have is, can you get retroactive incident data on MCE?
I wish. There is currently no mechanism for archiving historical incidents. It is something that I've requested, and I know it's something that they'd like to do. So hopefully in the future, we'll have that option. Great question.
Okay, great. The next question is, how often is MCE updated?
Current incidents provide near real-time updates. The update frequency is supposed to be every 15 minutes. As far as the layers like NES and CBP, ACS, they're typically updated annually.
Okay, great. The next question is, what is the lowest level available for community resilience estimates?
So community resilience estimates are publicly released down to the census tract level. Although some underlying source data exist at finer geographies, such as blocks or block groups. Blocks would be decennial data and block group would be ACS. CRE itself is not published below the tract level.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. And also, could you please show your slide with the contact information again? We would like to see that so that everyone has that contact information.
Absolutely. Please get in touch with us. Love to hear from you.
And that was actually the last question that I see in the question and answer section.
Okay, thank you, Monica. And also thank you, Meredith, for walking us through our data mapping tools, also using the scenarios to identify real-time impacts to our communities. It really brings the data to life, so thank you. Before we conclude, I'd like to thank everyone who played a role in today's webinar. We thank you, our audience, for spending your time with us. We are interested in hearing from you on how we are doing, so please take a moment to fill out the evaluation that will appear when you exit the webinar. That brings us to a close. We thank you again for joining us today and hope you have a great afternoon.
The webinar has ended. Please disconnect at this time. And also, when you end the webinar, you'll have a short evaluation survey. We appreciate your feedback. Have a good afternoon.